Okay, man. Look who's on the show. We've been trying to get this together since July when I met him on the bus at the EYBL on our way to the game, man. Brian, I'm saying your name, Nimchuk, right? I got it
Yep,
right?
yep. It's
Man,
not an
so,
easy one, but yeah, Nemchek. Yep.
so that's good, man. So how's it going?
It's going great, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I know we've been trying to do this for a while. Schedule's been hectic, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. Obviously, Addie committed over the weekend, so that was a big relief for all of us to get it over with and get started on our next journey. So it's
Uh,
exciting
that's
times.
it. Yeah, I got that, man. It was good stuff. So, well, tell me this, man. Since you've been in this space and you're in the sports space of basketball, did that help you in deciding on working with her during this period? Because you do have a background in sports, maybe not hands on, but on the business side.
Yeah, I think I've been blessed to be in the sports industry on the ad sales side for about 20 years. I get to interact with a lot of ex athletes on the college level or professional
Yeah,
or even professional coaches. I'm blessed to get an opportunity to talk to them, talk about their journey, talk about how they became elite players or coaches and what went into that. And I try to share those stories with Addie over time and make her understand that it's a big commitment. It's a lot of work. And at the end of the day, they have to have it in their heart and they want to do it themselves. But it is good to be around those elite players to kind of understand how they did it, how they approached it. And then from the business side, it's always good, especially now when, all college sports now, everything's a business. Even the AAU side is a business. So understanding that side, how it works is certainly helpful
yeah.
to help her navigate around all the I think challenges for a young girl who's making a decision, and now there's financial implications to that as well. So just knowing that side, I think it helps.
Yeah, everything's so transactional now in the basketball. It's a professional, basically, it's professional, and you have to be somewhat, aware of what's going on that. So I'm glad to see that she had that kind of guidance. Well, drop a couple names on me, some players that you leaned on to get some info from.
Well, I was blessed to spend some time with Doug Collins after the 2008, I guess, gold medal game in Beijing. I was working at NBC Sports at the time, and I was talking to him about how they won that game. If you remember, Kobe had a big game. They were playing the Spaniards, Ricky Rubio and Saul brothers. And I just remember asking him, I'm like, how do we not have anybody that could stop Marc Gasol? He had like 30 points. And he's explaining to me how the international game works and how they have to defend the three and they'll give up the two in exchange. So it was very interesting, but I always like picking their brains about how, they went about their business as a coach. I mean, at the time he was just on the committee, putting the team together. I just picked his brain how he picked the team and why. And it was pretty interesting. So when you get around those, professional coaches, players, it's very interesting. Their knowledge of their particular profession is off the charts. It's so different. And I played Division I basketball, so I was around it at a next level, but that's even a higher level. So, so I was blessed. Tony Dungy was another one I interacted with NBC. Now I get blessed to be around guys like Tom Brady and others at Fox, Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
Again, I don't spend much time with them, but just seeing them interact and how they approach business, have brief conversations with them, it helps.
Yeah, I tell you, man, you dating yourself when you say Doug Collins, man. You went
Yeah,
back to Doug Collins. I remember in the Olympics when he hit that big shot back in the day, boy. He hit a
yeah,
big shot. I was like, I remember.
he's such
Hey,
a good guy.
I want to give you that old school jersey
Yeah,
behind you. You see that?
I saw that
That's
back there.
Sidney
That's a
Moncrief,
vintage.
and the other
That,
end, I got Walt Frazier.
yeah, well, that's
So
vintage right there.
cool stuff, man. That's good, man. So let's talk about Addie a little bit, man. When did you know she was a baller?
At an early age, I have two older daughters that are older than Addie. So I have three girls. Addie's the about the youngest by about 5 years from her middle sister, and they played hoops. I'm not saying they were at Addie's level, but as soon as Addie got in the gym in first grade, I kind of just saw the drive, the passion for the game, and then there was a guy in the gym that saw her shooting around that was coaching the third grade, like little rec team, and he was like, "Hey, do do you think she could play with us? She might be the best player out there. And I'm like, I don't know. She's
third grade.
I tried not to get her involved in structured basketball that early, but I was like, yeah, if she wants to do it, she can do it. And when she got on the court, her vision, her knowledge, and IQ of the game was just popped at an early age. It was like she had it, The athleticism has always been there, but the IQ, the vision, anticipating things before they happen at a very, very early age. And then the drive, the work ethic is really important. I had a middle one that played D3 basketball. She was very talented. And the difference is just really the work ethic and desire and passion for the game. You have to love it. And Addie's in the gym, 4 hours, 5 hours a day. She's dedicated. So it's very interesting to watch. But you could tell at an early age, and quite frankly, some of the teammates she played with, you could tell at an early age, who was gonna play at in high school and then maybe even college.
Well, I saw her play a couple times, and I was like, and I was very impressed with her skill set and her size and length. And I've talked to coaches that I talked to, and they really thought they had a shot at her. They really liked her style. So I had to get you guys on the show, and that's why I kept being pressed about it. But what's the biggest challenge? What has been the biggest challenge? And as a girl dad, I didn't know you had 3 other daughters. You're a true girl dad. So
when you're raising 3 girls, it's always a challenge. As you know, teenage girls and everything that comes with it. But they were great kids. I'm blessed to have great kids. Very happy, very healthy. And then Addie, I think for her, I always tried to keep her grounded and humble and hungry at the same time. I think it's important. You could easily get caught up in the press clippings and social media and rankings. And the good news, she never cared about that. All she wanted to do is compete and win, which I think shows in her game. She has a complete game. She'll make the extra pass when she needs to be. She's not selfish. She's actually unselfish. I sometimes wish she would take more shots, but she makes and impacts the game in so many ways. It makes her teammates better, and I feel like that's the game of basketball. You need one of those players on every team if you're going to win championships. They're glue players. I think she's that. She has a complete game, and I kind of sit there and say, she almost has maybe too many tools in the tool belt sometimes and confuses herself. Right. Like keep it a little simple there, but it's interesting. It's fun to watch.
Well, that's interesting that you said that, man, when you said about working hard and all those ingredients, man, and those ingredients like there sometimes they're just not a part of the game anymore. So many kids and families about NLI, collective, that's their main concern. And I've talked to a lot of my girl dads about that, about being able to just let that take care of itself. You do the work, you put in the work, and that'll take care of itself. So what made you choose Kevin in Philly Rise? I wanted to get that one. What made you choose Kevin in Philly Rise? I've been knowing Kevin for a few years now. And what made you? Was he a heavy recruiter on her?
No, it was an easy decision. Quite frankly, throughout Addie's journey, we lived in New York at one point, and we were looking for programs there. She played for Empire. Nick Vocek, who's the assistant coach at Marist now, he was running the program. I remember going to watch, the workouts, and I was like, they're teaching the game the right way. So she was blessed at an early age to be in the right program. They were teaching the game the right way, in my opinion, teaching team basketball and developing really advanced skills. So she was blessed to do that through about 7th grade. And then we moved down to Jersey, and she played for the Shore Shots. Again, both programs are not Nike or any of the sneaker circuits. So she was competing and she was just getting better and developing those complete skills and playing with some really good players. And then we went down to the Memphis NCAA event when she was a sophomore with the Shore Shots. We got invited. Team was pretty good. And we got to play against some of the sneaker teams for the first time because we played in like 40. We didn't get a chance to play some of those elite teams. And, I called Kevin because I was thinking about making a move because I wanted to see her play against the best competition, see where she could compete so we can make a right decision for college down the road. So I had called Kevin. He had a great reputation. From the minute I talked to him, I knew that this was the program. He had great parents. He had, again, a great vision for his program. They played the right way. I watched them play oftentimes. He had a lot of talent. That always helps, but they played the right way. So when I asked him to come to the games in Memphis to check it out, see how Addie competed, see how she would fit into the circuit. He called me after the first game, which is against, I think we played FBC. We took them down to the wire. We lost by about 8, but it was a 4-point game with 2 minutes left. And I said to him, "What'd you think?" And he said, "Addie was the best player in the court." And I believe that was true at the time. And she was, it was a 15U, so it's not the 17U circuit. But I was very impressed in her ability to compete. And then, I realized at this point she needed to move. And then, just talking to Kevin throughout the process, he was very helpful, insightful, respectful. But he said all the right things. And Kevin's a class act. I would tell anybody to send their kids to that program. He does it the right way, and he teaches the game the right way. So it was very helpful, and I think that's the only way we're sitting here now with Addie going to Indiana was that move to the Rise. I
tell you this, when you got Hidalgo and what's the other girl? Olivia Miles, Zoe, ZB, all the girls. That's a tight resume. I can't wait to get Kev on the mic too. I want to ask you, do those coaches ever go radio silent on you and don't call you back? I bet he'll say, "No way, no, hell no, they don't do that." But
from what I've experienced, when he calls, they're picking up immediately.
Ring, it's up.
Yeah, he's just got a ton of relationships, as they all do at that level at the Nike circuit, or probably even the Adidas Under Armour. These coaches have to develop relationships with them. But Kevin does it the right way. He doesn't overstep his boundaries. He's there to guide you. And he'll give you his 2 cents if you ask, but he's certainly not pushing anybody in a direction or favoring any particular relationship. He leaves it up to you. He just wants to make sure you're asking all the right questions to make the right decision.
So I like Kev. He's a straight shooter. I like him. Did you ever think about doing some other circuits? I don't know what's on the East Coast, but you're looking at Adidas, Under Armour. Did you even think about one of those teams over there?
No, it's really just Nike. You have the New Jersey Gems, you have the Rise, and really you have Exodus up in New York. When we moved to Jersey, Philly's about an hour and a half, easier ride than going up into, New York City at that point with the traffic. So it was a no-brainer. We actually practiced in like South Jersey, so it was an easy ride. It was just a perfect fit, and plus we had a lot of the New Jersey kids played on that program, like Michaela Blakes, Hidalgo, Zoe Brooks, Justine Passat. The list goes on. So we had a lot of people to tap into to kind of investigate, their experience there. And I don't think there was anybody that ever said a bad thing and praised the program. So it was an easy decision.
But did you know before he came over to Philly Bells, before that, when he was with Mike Flynn and those guys, I remember him back then. So I go a little bit ways back with Kevin. He's always been a straight shooter with me, and I really enjoy talking to him when I get his butt on the mic. We spoke a couple times a year or so ago, but I'm going to get him back on the mic. Tell me this. You like the EYBL, so how did Addison handle the physical and the mental demands of the EYBL? Because you got players coming at you every game, good ballers coming at you, and especially she's a small forward, right? She's about 6'2".
Yep.
She was facing some players I know in Chicago, I seen her facing some really big time players. So how did she handle that? And you think it's getting her ready for the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think the transition was great because when Kevin and I originally spoke, he's like, "Hey, listen, she was, you want to play on 16U or 17U?" And my exact quote back to him is, "I want you to put her where you think she can succeed and flourish and learn." We want the transition to be a positive one for her. So he put her on the 16U as a sophomore. She played maybe 2 or 3 Nike tournaments with that team. And then Big O and Jordan went on to play for their respective countries, Czech and then, the U.S. team. And so they left for a couple tournaments. So they moved the Addie up. And she transitioned pretty seamlessly into the 17U. I always thought she could compete there, but it was probably the best of both worlds. She got to kind of get her feet wet, get used to the speed, athleticism, totally different than the circuit she was in. And she was thriving. So the rest is history. I think she joined the club this year. I think she really came out of her shell a little bit in Chicago this year because the team, when Jesse Moses went down, they needed a third scorer. And I think, Addie's one of those players that, wants her teammates and make them better. And sometimes she doesn't
Yeah.
understand that you need to kind of contribute more offensively now that Jessie wasn't there. And I think she did that in Chicago. I mean, she went from averaging 8 points a game to like 16. She was the leading scorer in a couple of those games. I think defensively is where she really got better. I always thought she needed to play people a little bit more, get in their grill a little bit to take advantage of her length. And, Tony Lee took her under her wing at the beginning of this year and really developed that. She was playing the best players in the Nike circuit and locking them down in some cases as best as you can for some of those players, as that they're really talented. But she played the Savory girl one time and then the Ayers girl back-to-back in really competitive games. And I thought she held her own. And I think that's her value. She could play 1 through 4 offensively and defensively. And that length is a problem. So we'll see if it translates. Obviously going to the Big Ten is different. So she's going to have to make adjustments as all freshmen do. But I think she's ready because she, played against the best. I don't think you get any better resume than playing for the Nike circuit and getting to play against the best. I think she's been tested.
You in advertising and you sitting around here pumping a Nike circuit. He just gave him a plug.
Yeah. I believe it's the best circuit out there, but
you're right. I believe I was on the Adidas circuit for about 7 years, and the last 3 years I've been following the Nike circuit, and I'm on board with that. Nike is a little bit has a little bit of edge, and that has a little bit more tradition. If you want to be ready for the SEC, the Big Ten, or the Big 12, you're going to have to see those girls, and best way to go. Tell me this though, being in that space, and I was asking another Haskell out of Tennessee. I was asking him, as being in that space, pro advertising, having that access to pros, does that give you an advantage when it comes to raising a kid from a dad who just, hey, I know basketball from a book, or I used to play in high school? Do you think there's an advantage there? I do, because I know you, just like you said, you took her to a gym and you were like, well, I have to see what they were doing first and make sure they knew how to teach the right way. Does that give you an advantage?
Yeah, I think I was blessed to play basketball in college. My wife played soccer in college at a D1 level. So we both were athletes. We kind of, and for me, I always felt like I had a high IQ of the game and kind of had a good understanding. And that was probably my strength, where I could sit in the gym, look at talent, evaluate, see where my daughter fit, how they played, would she be a good fit? And it's no different when we went to go pick a school. I mean, her top 3, all systems would work for her. Again, I think she could play.
Well, we're going to get into that.
Yeah. I think all systems work for her, because she's such a versatile player. But, I think, sitting in the gym, understanding what players are on the roster. And, so I've always had that, I guess, that ability to have that vision, but she does as well. I don't really have to tell her much. She's got a high IQ. She understands systems. She understands the game at a very high level for her age. She'll sit there and probably coach a lot of kids. If you watch her in the game, she's pointing, telling them where to be. Mm-hmm. She's a leader in that front. She just has a really good understanding of the game. Situation.
Well, yeah. Like I said, I got a chance to watch her in Chicago for 3 days, 3 straight. I watched those games, and I was very, like I said, the coaches that was by me wanted to, they thought they could get her, and they loved her game. So you obviously doing a good job at that, being a girl dad out there. And like I said, 3 girls in the house. You're truly a girl dad. So
I'd like to take credit, but I give all the credit to my wife, Heidi.
Well, did you put the parameters? Because I know my daughter was at that level also. I wanted her to be able to make her own decisions and be able to speak with coaches and speak with people, because that's how it's going to be when that ball stops bouncing. Did you put the parameters around her on the decision makings of where to go? We'll tap into that a little bit later. Put those parameters around her to say, here, baby, this is what I like, but it's really your decision. But this is what I like.
Yeah, Heidi and I were big throughout her decision making, even when she picked the high school down here in Jersey, that it would be her decision. We encouraged her to do her research. So when we moved to Jersey, there was a couple schools that she could have attended. She was looking at St. John Vianney. She was looking at Red Bank Catholic, which are 2 powerhouse programs here. And, I said the best way to figure it out is go sit down with the coach, call him up, schedule some time with her. She's in 8th grade. She called him up, scheduled some time to go see him. And she goes, come on, Dad, you're going to go with me. And I said, nope, you're on your own. So we taught her a little old school, to make decisions on her own, to investigate on her own. And the same thing when we were looking to make a decision on college, it was always her decision. Obviously, we answered any questions that she would have. We guided her, to make sure she was asking all the right questions. But quite frankly, she handled it like a pro. We didn't have to really get involved much at all. I think she really knew from an early, stage which schools were going to be in her top five. And quite frankly, it was some of the best coaches in the country, I think, obviously outside of Gino and Dawn and Mulkey and all those. But from the next level down, I think a lot of the coaches that were, pursuing her were some of the best coaches in college from a system standpoint, from just maybe how they run their programs. Shea Ralph, Van, he was part of that. Mark Campbell, Terry obviously was very impressive. Her system is complicated, but it's perfect for Addie. And then, Michigan with Kim, she had just some unbelievable choices, and she really came down. It was almost like flipping a coin.
Well, I saw that, and I couldn't wait to get you on the mic and talk about that a little bit, because I was a little heartbroken that she didn't come where I wanted her to go. But we'll talk more about parenting, and we're going to jump into some fun stuff with the recruiting and the NLI stuff, and what's your perception on that. What lessons did you learn as a parent from watching her compete so much this summer? You have to learn something, because I know as a dad, I learned some things about myself. So what lessons have you learned watching her compete?
Yeah, I think it's giving them freedom, right? Just sitting there back and enjoying the ride and not getting involved a little bit. They have ups and downs. Be there to be positive when things are not going well, encouraging her to stay positive, because they can get down on themselves pretty quick. Some of the best players in the world will have a bad shooting day. And quite frankly, Addie was struggling. She had, some, not an injury, but she was dealing with some nagging stuff early in the circuit. She wasn't shooting well, and she was struggling a little bit. And I was like, listen, you got to keep shooting it. If you're open, you got to keep shooting it, and you got to work through the injuries. Which she does. She's never going to complain. She's a tough kid. But I always just like encouragement, just to be there for her when she had questions, but trying not to get involved too much. I think
you weren't a helicopter dad, or you weren't Zoe's dad screaming in the crowd, going off.
No, I think I might be screaming at the officials once in a blue moon, but I might be guilty of that. But certainly don't get involved. Encourage her to spend time with the coaches when she's struggling, to talk to them. I'm not there to talk to coaches. I think that's a terrible thing for parents to be getting involved in. So we always encourage her too to have friends outside of basketball.
That's a good balance.
Let's have a social aspect to things outside of basketball. So when things are going bad, you're not sitting there with others harping on
about the coach. I tried to get my daughter to be roommates with like a golf player or a tennis player.
Yeah, it's smart. Get different perspectives. And it really helped her. She's a well-rounded kid for that reason. And then we always told her, you need to get rest. All these players that are at that level, all that, they want to be in the gym. They want to play 100 games, and we limited her exposure. Like some of these tournaments, we didn't go to, didn't even entertain. And I know a lot of people want to go to the overtimes and all these things, but we were like, you need to rest your body, which is more importantly. And she learned to do that. It was August, the freshman year, and I'll leave the name of the coach out of it, but we were at the last day of the live period in July, and he wasn't even recruiting Addie, but he loved watching her play, and he was just giving her a little advice. And he said, throw your sneakers in the closet and take the month of August off and give your body a rest. Now, we did that. It didn't last a month, but it lasted some time. And I remember her coming to me weeks later and saying that was the best thing that advice that Tim gave me was to kind of rest my body. And I got to do things, and I got to be a kid. And then they come back hungrier. They come back with that passion. They want to get back in the gym, and then
it's too much playing in general. You have to. Sometimes you got to put a little Kawhi Leonard and do some load management, because young girls' bodies aren't meant to be pound like that. And I think that's attributed to a lot of ACL tears and them not recovering, them not resting, them not hydrating. I think that attributes to that. So, man, well, let's get into some fun stuff, man. Let's talk about, man, let's talk about the selection, man. I wanted you. I was going to call you. Say you coming to TCU, man, because I need to meet you at the airport and go have a whiskey or something, man.
Yeah.
I was hoping you got a mark system, but I saw all the schools that you guys had up there. Couldn't go. Hey, they're all great schools, great coaches. So, but I was looking to see her in a purple over there at TCU. So, but that's okay.
It was so tough for her. I mean, Mark Campbell and Chave down there were recruiting her from the start. They believed in her. They believed in her potential. They believed how she could play in that system in a pick and roll, which she really doesn't do that in high school. So I give them a lot of credit. And again, they were a leader in the clubhouse, just like Michigan was and Indiana. They were all right there. I think at the end of the day, what it came down to is that Terry Morin and that staff were all in on Addie from day one. And I'm not saying the others weren't, but it was a little bit different. They identified her right off the bat. I watch a lot of college women's basketball games and understand systems. And, I think that all three systems would have worked for her, but I believe that what she wanted to play in is maybe, and this is how Indiana plays, in my opinion, they'll get out in transition for the first 10, 15 seconds of that shot clock. And then it's a little bit more structured. They run a complex motion offense. They take advantage of matchups. They love big guards for that reason. So I thought the system was perfect. Now, Michigan was another system I thought really worked because they really like to play fast. They like to get out in transition. They play a little bit more free. So all three systems were different, but at the same time, Wood married up with Addie very well. I just think that the community in Indiana and Bloomington is one that you can't experience. You get there, and it's all about basketball. And it's the mecca of basketball, as you know.
I thought Rutgers Park was the mecca.
We'll get to Rutgers later. But, we went out for a game, and there was 10,000 people there when they were playing Harvard. And by the way, they lost. They turned the ball over 27 times. They probably played the worst game of the season last year. But that community support, how they support basketball out there is completely different than I've seen in any other place. And I think Addie really wanted to play in front of 10,000 people that are very passionate about basketball, knowledgeable of basketball. And I think that was the deciding factor. The rest of
was it important? Was it important that you play as a freshman coming in, that you have the opportunity to compete, that you have that opportunity to compete to play?
No doubt in my mind. I mean, listen, you never know when you transition to high school. Everybody's just as good as you. It's a tough transition. There's no guarantees to get on the court. None of the coaches would guarantee anybody, nor would that be our expectation. She'd have to earn it. I think the good news with Addie, she's so versatile. I think she's going to find her way on the court just for that reason. She could play four positions and defend four positions. And she might even be able to defend five. Maybe she puts on another 20, 30 pounds. Maybe actually it might be more like 40 pounds. But
that much on her.
But she's not shy of mixing it up and getting in front of post players. But I think that's going to give her a little bit of an edge. And I think the hardest thing with the transition from high school to college is on the defensive side. That's what you can't prepare for. The speed of the game is completely different. Even from the Nike circuit, you're going to see, you're going to have to be skilled defensively. You're going to have to move your feet. And I think her length is such a problem at 6'2". I think she'll find her way on the court. But yes, playing time meant something, and I think Indiana gave her that opportunity. We'll give her that opportunity based on what the roster looks like now, but they got some recruits coming in, so it'll be competitive. But it would have been competitive at Michigan. It's going to be competitive at TCU. As you know, you get to that level, there's no guarantees. So she's going to have to work her butt off. But I'm not worried about that. Like I said, she's a gym rat. She's very passionate. She's trying to get stronger. She's been in the gym since 7th grade, working out with weights and stuff. So she's a lot stronger than people think. She's just a wiry kid.
Wiry, strong. Is she like the Kevin Durant strong? She's kind of wiry, but yet strong.
Yeah, and at one point there, people were calling her baby KD.
Look at me coming in there with that tag.
Yeah.
Well, tell me this, Brian. I know you're not really, financially in this space coming from that you're in. what's your perception? And was it a factor? NIL collective, was it any type of factor in the decision that you made with any of these schools?
Yeah, I think you said it before. Like, I feel like if you perform, that'll take care of itself. So we took that approach. We didn't make that the center of our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So though, as I said to coach, I'm never going to take money out of my daughter's pocket, right? So you're gonna have to be fair and competitive with everybody else. And for the most part, it really was the least of our priorities.
Yeah.
I guess we're blessed that we obviously are not centering around the money. For her, that wasn't a priority. She wanted to get to a good culture, opportunity to win, compete for national championships, to get to that level in the right system for her, and get an education. So Indiana was important to her. Yeah. So Indiana was important. She's going into the business school. So Kelly School of Business, one of the top business schools. She couldn't have gone wrong either with the Ross Business School in Michigan or the business school down at TCU. So she had really good choices academically too. But that was really important for her because basketball is going to end at some point, and it could end up sooner than later, injury or knock on wood that doesn't happen. But it can end short. Maybe you don't get an opportunity to play in the league, so you're going to have to rely on that education, which is important. She's a good student. She got passion for her academics. So we didn't make it about the money, but I thought everybody was pretty fair and competitive.
Okay.
Some a little bit better than others, but nothing that's there's never really a big gap. And I think we probably could have worked that out with some of the people that were even short if she chose to go there.
Well, those coaches Googled you and checked your history, so they knew not to come at you at a certain way. So you knew that going in. Well, let's land this plane, man, on a couple things because we'll talk hoop all night. I know there's a lot of girl dads out there. My main question I like to talk to dads about is if there's a nugget, if there's something I could give you guys coming into this, following Addie's step and following Brian's step and growing. I know you don't have the background that Brian has, but is there something that you could give these dads and say, hey, look, this, if my next daughter coming up, I would do this or I wouldn't do this?
Yeah, I think you got to give them their space. Like I said before, I think it's really important to let them grow as a into a young lady, right? And do that on their own terms, not being overbearing for them, not pushing them. I feel like I see a lot of parents pushing their kids, living through their kids. It's a terrible thing. They're either going to want it or not, and you can't teach that. That's something that's ingrained in these kids. It's in their heart. I learned that from having 3 girls. I mean, my middle one is just as athletic as Addie, but she didn't want it as much as Addie, which was fine. We knew that. She told us she was very happy. She played D3 basketball, had a great career, and that's what she wanted, in life. So you have to listen to your kids. You can't be overbearing, and you have to be there to love them and to guide them, but not to not to be overbearing.
You hear that, girl dads out there? All my girl dads, you hear that out there? That was a great nugget that you gave them, Brian. So hopefully some guys will take that into consideration when they're going through this process.
I hope so. Keep them humble. Keep them humble and hungry, as I said.
Oh, yeah. Hey, guys, girl dads, on my last thing, I want to say, I always end up with you guys. I want you to get your PSA levels checked. It's crucial. You want to be there for your daughters, your PSA levels. Get it checked. Find out what it is. Prostate cancer is ultra big in African-American men, but men, period. So I want you guys to do that. And if you want to talk about it, because I know we don't share our feelings a lot. So talk about it to me, DM me, and we could talk about it. Hey, Brian, thanks a lot for coming on the show, man. I knew it was going to be hot. So you gave up a lot of nuggets. And when Indiana come to Texas, you probably get a text from me saying, man, leave me some tickets.
I'd love to see you down there. And again, thanks a bunch for having me on. I'm glad we could work this out. It was great chatting.